it was almost like on Futurama, you know, with like the floating heads.
Yes, of course.
So like Dan Broxton, who's the guy that does all our stuff, you know, Dan's head's just floating in the Zoom there.
Right.
And I was like, I miss you, and we're like kind of hanging out, I guess.
Yeah.
What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music.
You got bevs to check.
I got some bevs over here.
Okay, yeah, you're waiting for the debut of that. They're off camera right now. Cool. Yeah. Without further ado, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I am pleased to welcome the bass player, the Rumble from Down Under of SPIRITBOX, Bill Crook. Thanks for coming on the show, my guy.
Dude, thanks for having me. I feel like we've been trying to navigate this for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate to have you on. We've been trying to lock down a time. There's been some rescheduling, and you've been very patient and down with the sickness and, you know, getting things ready for this. You know, very ironically, I'm not sure how apparent it will be, and I'm just giving full transparency because that's what I'm all about. I got a little bit of a flu, I think, from a recent camping trip, so there might be some muted sneezing from my end, so I'm not just dripping like a faucet while Bill and I are chatting. But aside from that, I think I'm just gonna let him kind of take the conversation and kind of cue him up, because I think there's a lot of really cool things that you're doing, and people, I'm sure, are going to be very excited to hear us chat today.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
You know, for the few folks at home who might not know who you are, do you want to give a proper intro of what you do in heavy music, and I guess the positions as far as what instrumentation you're doing?
Like, my name's Bill Crook. I live in Vancouver, BC. I grew up here in the Fraser Valley. I play in a band called SPIRITBOX that's based out of Victoria. I've been playing in bands since I was about 17 years old. And as soon as I graduated high school, we started hitting the road. And it really wasn't probably until like 2015, 2016 that I took a break from music, but I'm right back into it now.
Yeah, no, looking back at your discography, like, obviously your time in Textbook, I got some questions, because I think when I was first getting into heavy music, like those bands, like Textbook and Fallen Archaea and The Fallacy were all bands that I was like, kind of like looking up as kind of a youngin in my field. So definitely want to chat about that. Obviously there's lots to talk about SPIRITBOX. But before we chat music, we got to chat bevs. Bill and I have been in the DMs constantly about different bev things that he's checking, and I know that he's about it. So I'm really excited what he's going to be bringing on the show today.
So this is like really special for me. So there's like this bodega. There's this new kind of thing in Vancouver where there'll be these like fancy bodegas with like rare drinks and snacks. And so this one just opened up across the street from my house, and I hadn't been in there yet. They have like shoes and Funko Pops. And today I was like, man, I got to find something good for the app. And I'm like, oh, I should go into that place because I haven't been in there yet. It was hilarious. It's a super sick store. It's called Lucky's Bodega if you live in Vancouver. But I was so pleased to find the coveted Topo Chico.
The coveted.
So I did find the regular mineral water flavored at Taco Fino in Vancouver, but they have a lemon lime, a tangerine, and a grapefruit. The mandarin's my favorite, but the lemon lime is really good. And this, I don't know what it is about this stuff. It's so crazy, but like it tastes like almost like soda. You know, like on LaCroix or on some other stuff, you get that weird aftertaste.
Sure.
Still.
Yeah.
Like people always joke that LaCroix is like, oh, it's like a hint of, you know what I mean? It's a whisper of the flavor. This tastes like straight up. So.
Yeah. No, it's funny that you say that. I think there's a really famous LaCroix meme where it's like one drop of lime juice as like their lime flavor or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely like it definitely was it got me in the door in some of that sparkling water connoisseur nature that I'm all doing now. But you know, it's clearly kind of exited as far as a normal thing that I keep in the fridge.
And I don't like sparkling water. Like we have one of those ones where you at our house where you like, like
Oh,
you
like the Soda Streams?
Soda
Mhm.
Stream. Sonny does one. Like my wife's all about sparkling water, and I do not like it. But I had tried this, and like I said, it tastes more like a soda. I think it's because it's like natural carbonization through the minerals or something. But
Gotcha.
it's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
You might if
Oh yeah, go away. I know some people come on the show already like the bevs are already like half drank. I was like, you're not gonna open it on the podcast? Like, come on. If my shirt wasn't a dead giveaway, we're checking a new level, which is
Nice.
a brewery here in Calgary that we're sponsored by. This is their like craft soda. So they started doing these in like the pandemic. So this is their first flavor that they did, but they actually just dropped it's like a mocktail mule. So it's like a non-alcoholic kind of like Moscow mule style. So there's like
That
some
like
lime and
gingery.
yeah, there's some ginger and lime in there. So I haven't gone and picked that up, but you know, probably one of the last one, not the last one, but you know, it's cool now that they have a mix of two different flavors versus like I've been sending people there and the pineapple one is the only one that they had at the time. So, you know, big
I
things for
almost
the
went for a
soda.
pineapple. Yeah, they're good. I almost went for the pineapple with Fanta today, but then I saw the Topo. It was like hidden in the corner.
Yeah, like Topo is like one of those things where um it doesn't seem like it's fully hit a lot of like the Western Canada
Oh no.
accessibility. So as soon as I can get me a grapefruit Topo Chico, like it might be game over.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason I know about it is just because we were down in the States recording, and I have, you see it all your California friends on Instagram posting about it all the time. And I was
Oh
like, it was one
yeah.
of the things I knew I had to do when I went down there was
Yeah.
get a Topo Chico.
Yeah, like it's been multiple times when I've had an American guest, they're like, "Oh, gotta have the Topo Chico," and it's like, it seems like one of those things like a toy that I just haven't been able to play with yet, you know? Like, but like
Yeah.
it seems like it's like everywhere down in the States. So shout out to Topo Chico, just you know, starting
Yeah.
to
Shout out to that Topo Chico.
yeah. Well,
It
Bill,
was
like
weird, man. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no,
Go ahead. What
no,
were you
no,
saying?
you go. No,
Oh,
I'm
it's
down to
actually
chat
like,
bevs for as long as we
oh
want
yeah,
to.
we'll have it up for a bit. But so there was like Vaughn's in the States, which is like, I'm sorry to the people, like people in America, we have completely different grocery store
Oh yeah.
zones, right? So Vaughn's is kind of like Safeway, and then what was the other big one? Oh, Ralph's,
Yeah.
and that was like its own thing. And so we were way out in the middle of the desert recording in outside of Joshua Tree, and they had a Vaughn's there, and Vaughn's didn't carry Topo, of course.
Oh no, Vaughn's
So,
messing it up.
yeah, but I mean, we had to go into town a couple times, and then we would get a couple cases, but they would last like one day because you get a 12 case and everybody has 4, you know.
Right. Yeah, like I can't even imagine when you know, I'm able to be in a normal like podcast studio and we just have fridges, how it's just gonna be so easy to be like, yo, throw me another one. And then it's gonna be like, oh shit, we gotta, you know, talk about some new Bev sponsorship agreements because I'm kerning through these a little too fast. Um, just because we're on the topic, yeah, there's definitely a lot of chains and corporate entities that are just like not 9-day differences, but they're just like we as Canadians know them so well, but like all the Americans are like, wait, like what? So I was just thinking like I don't think that there's like Shoppers Drug Mart in like the
Mm-mm.
States, but like
CVS and Walgreens.
yeah, I was gonna say Walgreens is kind of the equivalent of that.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask you if there's any like big corporate chain for anything, whether it's like a drugstore, a grocery store, even a fast food place that you would like hard swap with something up here in Canada? Like,
Oh my
if you
God.
had the power to do that, who would you send away and who would you send in?
Oh, I would send away, and you know what? It breaks my heart to say this, but it's just been getting worse and worse and worse over the years. Is Tim Hortons, and I want to support it, obviously, but it's
Right.
just like it's sometimes, and the coffee is kind of whatever, but you get so I'll be like, I won't get the food for a while, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a chance, and then I'm just like, why did I do that again? Like, like
Yeah. So
like
you would probably have to bring in like the equivalent of that would probably be Dunkin's that you would be
yeah,
bringing in. Yeah.
yeah, they got way better food, and like it's here's the thing is that it's equally as like equal quality, but it just like tastes better.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had like cult Dunkin' fans here on the podcast, and I'm just like, Tim Hortons is kind of that same caliber, but like it's really like nosedived as far as quality and just
Yeah,
things that they're
I
focused
hear
on.
I hear a lot of like of tough things because like there's one right across the street from my house, and the lady's like, yeah, it's like really tough. Like this lady owns the franchise. She's like, we're only allowed to buy this stuff and these cleaning products, and I'm like, yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it's
interesting. Yeah.
really tough. Like everything that you use in the store has to be bought from the warehouse or bought from the company. You know what I
Okay.
mean? But I mean, just like the sandwiches and the grilled cheese, or I mean, the soup's pretty hard to mess up, but sandwiches aren't good. And they were kind of doing well for a while. They were bringing in like, I think they brought in either Beyond Meat or Impossible. They brought in like subs, like plant-based subs, even for breakfast stuff. They had like kind of like these weird little chicken burgers and stuff for a while, and then it all went away. Like
Yeah, because I think it was, if we're looking at the plant-based, overall timeline, A&W got the first kind of like Beyond Meat burger. The world was exploding and going crazy, and they were selling out. And then I think it was Tim Hortons that was next in line that did the Beyond Sausage. And then I think A&W shortly followed suit of that. But now I'm pretty like you couldn't get it at A&W, and now I know you can't get it at Tim Hortons. Like Tim Hortons even did like the Beyond Meat burger, which I thought was like kind of a strange move.
Really weird. Yeah, they were doing chicken burgers for a bit, but like they were at least trying something new. But I mean, limited stuff. Like when you have like a little toaster and a little microwave, you can't really like make a lot of stuff. I know that the A&Ws in British Columbia still carry the Beyond stuff.
Oh, okay.
They do anyway, because I have a lot. I'm not plant-based myself, but like a lot of my friends are, and I totally enjoy that experience when I go eat with them. So I like to try everything, and it's like it's cool that you can just go to A&W and get whatever you want. But I know that in the prairies they got rid of it, but I'm pretty sure they still have
Yeah,
them
in Calgary they just have the burger, but not the breakfast sandwich, which sucks because that was a go-to when I like was working those
stage one or whatever, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like Tim Hortons, like I've been eating that like when I was in high school, like over 10 years ago now, and like I would even get mad at them when they would like discontinue certain like donut flavors. I'm like, how are you gonna get rid of maple swirl? It's like a Boston cream with like a white dip and then maple on top and then like maple filling. And yeah, so I don't know, like I'm not trying to like not ride for my country and like Tim Hortons and all that shit, but like there's really nothing like that's really catching my eye.
Disappointing.
Yeah, so no shout out to Tim Hortons.
Sorry,
I would love to see Dunkin' just flooding the streets all through the country here.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen one here. I don't even think I've seen a lot of Dunkins on the west coast of America. I think it's really an East Coast thing. I'm not sure. I just remember not seeing our Spirit Box is a very strong Starbucks band.
Oh, okay.
So, but maybe that's just from the fact that we didn't have them I didn't see very many when we were in California. So
well, I know. So I just put out a podcast with Lumpy from Sanction, and him and I like we go hard on like the coffee chats, and Starbucks being based like or started in Seattle, like obviously there's going to be it's going to be dominant on that side of the country. But Duncan started in Boston, I believe he said. So obviously there's going to be a lot more of that throughout there. So yeah, we're now we're just getting into like coffee like industry and placements and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's chat about some music. You're like, oh yeah, that's what we're here to do. So Bill, any new guests that I have here on the show, I always like to get some context about how like their origin of how they got into heavy music at first. Like, take me back before all the band stuff and tell me like the first time that you heard someone screaming, a riff, a breakdown, and that will help kind of showcase that like there's all these very subtle moments that kind of like really catch people's eyes and put them onto this kind of subculture. So yeah, take me back in time and tell me some of those origin moments for you.
So I can distinctly remember the first time I heard screaming, I was getting to the age maybe like 10 or 11 where I was like, like playing around in my room with like the radio. And, there was like a rock station and a pop station, a country station. That's like pretty much it.
Right.
And I'd heard like some like heavier rock on the radio, which I was like, oh, this is cool. But I think I was about 11, maybe 10. I think I was in grade 6 or 7. And my mom dropped me off at the dentist.
Okay.
And so I go up, I'm like, hey, I'm here for my cleaning or whatever. And they're like, yeah, just go sit over there. And there's like the little area with the TV.
Yes.
Like in a waiting room, like in a dentist or a doctor's office.
Okay.
There's like books. Maybe there'll be a TV or something like.
Right.
So I just went up to the TV and I turned it on. And I didn't grow up with cable TV. Like I didn't have TV growing up. So whenever I would like get a chance to like, I would like want to see what's on all the channels. So I went to Much Music, and it just so happens it was "Freak on a Leash" by Korn. But as I flipped the channel to that, it was like the scat part, like that was the so I'm just like, what is this guy doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? And they had like their braids and like they had like a pretty unique style.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was this really, really weird thing that I heard. And I just kind of watched it, and then the go came in, and I was just like, wow, what is this?
Right.
And then after that, like I had a friend turn me on to like Limp Bizkit, stuff like that. I really didn't get into a lot of the more like silly stuff, like I didn't really think that a lot of the makeup and the costuming of like the nu metal was that cool, but I did really enjoy the aggressive side of it, which
right.
I never heard anything. And then so all my friends and I, we were in concert band, jazz band. I started playing piano when I was really young, and I think through like jazz band is where I first heard about like like odd time meters and like
right.
just like weird stuff. And my friend Nick Yakishin, he was the drummer of our first band. He got us into stuff like the Dillinger Escape Plan, Botch, to a very degree, like Between the Buried and Me. And I could identify with that stuff because I kind of was like, oh, this is cool because this weird timing stuff.
Yeah, it's not 4/4.
I'm actually familiar with it though because of band,
mm-hmm.
and we were just like young little music snobs, and like the more crazier the stuff we could get into, the cooler we thought it was. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that was basically the premise of our first band.
Yeah,
The Texas Tragedy. Like our very first stuff that we put out was just all super spaz, weird meter and pattern, and then like a 5-minute jazz breakdown, and that kind of like got that stuff was where I went musically for the first time as someone playing in a band. But definitely my very first time hearing heavy music was like the Korns and the Limp Bizkits.
Yeah, like I can only imagine you being at the dentist's office and your mouth hits the floor because you're just seeing the most ridiculous thing, and then they're like, "Oh, I don't have to ask you to open your mouth for the appointment cleaning or whatever." You're just like, "My God."
Yeah. That just always stuck with me, man.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I had flashbacks to like when I would go see my orthodontist when I had braces, and I think that they had this little corner, because it was like primarily like a kid's orthodontist, and they had this little corner where they just had a ton of like PS2s and N64s, and you could like, this TV was for Mario Kart and this TV was for Spider-Man 2 or whatever it is. Like kind of like probably a bougie-ish orthodontist office now that I'm thinking
I
about
wish
it
I
out
would have done that one.
They're like, yeah, like if you're gonna be here for, you know, over 2 years having braces, you might as well play some video games, you know, slightly in between all that.
Yeah, they hooked me up.
Yeah, but I think, you know, like it's so apparent with a number of the different people that I've had on the podcast how it took much music or like certain like music video outlets to like just expose them to like that world and have it be such a jarring thing where it's like, I have no idea what this is, but I need to know more about it. And it's resonating with me in a certain way. Um, and it's strange now, like, you know, like it's very common for people not to watch like normal like cable TV or things like that, but there's not a normal thing in the heavy music space that's really pushing that as far as that means.
Yeah, I mean the only like and like maybe it's just a thing from also from being from Canada is that I didn't know how big satellite radio is,
Right.
and like stations like Octane or Liquid Metal, and that is like, and like, you know, shout out to Jose and also Katie, because they have done so much for SpiritBox by showing us love on there. But yeah, I had no idea how big satellite radio is and how many people are into that.
Yeah, let's head on that a little bit. We're gonna be, you know, jumping around different things, but like, I know like with a lot of like new stuff that you guys were premiering, like, you know, you would kind of start it there because that seems like a very like that seems like a huge goal that a lot of like heavier bands would think, but like can you kind of break it down for people? Like, is there like a place in like getting a radio play in, you know, in a 2021 kind of like landscape?
I'm not like you like have to be a little bit more detailed, like getting a play.
Yeah, I think like just, you know, at least when I was like getting into it, like getting a radio play with any of my bands seemed A, unattainable, and B, like, is there attention there? Because I'm always thinking about how, you know, even just stuff with like Scoped, how like where's the attention and where can I like put content into? So I'm just kind of like curious if you can kind of like speak to some of those things as someone who has had a radio play and seen the benefits of what that's done for your band.
I think it's incredible. Like it's the same kind of thing how I would say like how I found heavy music, because it made it accessible because it was on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, you know, most people have Sirius in their vehicles and stuff like that. You know, they can turn on and flip to the metal station and then what is this? And look at the screen and see what it is. Like, it's awesome. And I know it works because it'll be like people maybe I went to high school with, family members, people that I met through cutting hair, and they're like, I heard your band on Sirius XM. And I'm like, wow, this is so sick. You know what I mean? Like, especially as guys like us who have come from mostly like the DIY and independent music scenes, it's like you can really tell it's working when you have like your uncle send you a screenshot in the truck of like your song. It's like it's so cool. It's super amazing, man. I have so much gratitude. And I'm so thankful that we've been given those opportunities. It's super sick.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe there's just been an increased number of different avenues that you can premiere your music or have, you know, different things. Like I saw it on my stories today where there's a band called Purgatory, and I guess Jamie Josta of Hatebreed had played that on like one of his like listening podcasts or his radio show, and like, you know, they like tweeted at him like, oh, this is so sick. And like that's like a huge difference as far as band popularity is concerned. But like, you know, there's things like that where it's like, you know, different like influencers in the heavy music space can, you know, do a review. Like even like having someone like Anthony Fantano, which is like a YouTuber, to like do like something of that. It's just like that wasn't even in the cards 10 years ago, but now there's all these different avenues that bands can take to like again, push it out. And, you know, like it is cool to see that radio still has a place. And it's probably because it's like, you know, Sirius XM or liquid metal is like a curated thing. It's not just like we're playing all these random things from the ethos that, you know,
but for sure, like you know, the hosts, they play what they like, stuff they want and what they believe in, and I think that gives legitimate what's the word?
Legitimacy.
Sorry, it gives legitimate for, you know, for their branding. Like this is like, this is what they actually like, and they play that, and people will recognize that and respect that. And it's not just like this thing. It's like, here, play this song. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why people connect to maybe influencers and personalities a little bit more, because it is real.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're just really lucky that they connected with our music. It's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, let's, you know, kind of shift back. We were kind of jumping ahead of time. Now let's go back in time. So you kind of mentioned some of the moments as far as like first hearing heavy music. When was kind of the first moments as far as like, oh, this is something that I can actually do myself and, you know, do with my friends and start band stuff?
You know what? It's just like playing music is, I've never done sports. I'm kind of into video games a little bit, nothing too crazy, but like playing music is kind of all I've ever known, and it's all I've ever done, whether it was piano or guitar or bass. And it was just such a natural transition, because we started our first band together in high school, and then that band started doing Western Canada tours that turned into national tours. Then, you know, we went overseas, and then that band broke up, and I had like 2 months, and then I joined Living with Lions. So it's just was a very natural progression. I think that it's the same too with Michael and Courtney. They just all were just like, hey, let's do this. This is what we want to do. I don't even think Michael was out of high school yet when he started touring with Fallen Archaea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been such a big part of me. And I think that probably some of the toughest times in my life was when I wasn't playing music for a little bit. So
yeah.
It's awesome to be doing it again. I didn't realize how much I was gonna miss it. But.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Textbook Tragedy was like one of the major projects that you were doing around that time frame.
Yeah, and so we started that band, I want to say, in maybe like the first incarnation of that band, maybe in 2002, 2003. We released our first record in 2004, and then we had, I think it was in 2006 or 2007, our first full length came out on Distort, and then we did another EP, and then we broke up. So, but we were a band for, I don't know, like from whatever you want to say, like the first time we jammed as like a 4-piece to where we ended.
Yeah.
It was quite a while.
Yeah. So I was kind of curious, because when I was first getting into like these are bands from like my neck of the woods in Western Canada, like that band, Fallen Archaea, like a ton of different projects. I definitely went, I think, a little bit more of the, I guess, like the melodic side. Like growing up in the church, I listened to like a lot of Means growing up, and kind of like watched a lot of those bands that were on Face Down. But as far as like crazier like metal bands, like it almost seemed like that subgenre was kind of dominating a lot of what was happening in Western Canada. And nowadays you don't really see as many, like that's not the popular style of music that bands are playing. So is that a little surreal for you to kind of have been around for so long that you've seen all these different waves of you know, I guess like not like popular, but just like trends of like, oh, these bands are playing with this many strings on their guitar, and now they're not, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the bands like I think of now that are kind of bringing that earlier 2000s raw sound back. Like when I think of like when you say post-hardcore, it's like not so much the bands like the Thursday and stuff like that. But if I think of like, I don't know, like Botch or something like that, or even like really early, or any Converge stuff. Right. You know what I mean? Like that really crazy thrashy raw sound. I feel like I am seeing that come back as a lot of the like low tuning kind of jun stuff is kind of come and stayed and done its own thing.
Right.
Where I'm seeing like even like, I guess, could you classify like CU Space Cowboy in kind of that?
Yeah, I feel like they definitely put their own spin on that, and they're pulling from a number of different things. But yeah, I feel like they could probably fall into that
You know what I
category.
mean? That vibe of like doing your own thing and not really like trying to be like, oh, we're this band and this band and this band, and just kind of going out and doing it. Like that's that energy and that vibe I get out. But I don't really like, as far as like when Textbook was going in Western Canada, you know, like you said, there's the Fallacy, Paris on a Tuesday. I think that was the name of the band.
Yeah, I don't know if this band was from Western Canada, but like Horizons was another band.
Yeah, they were a Kelowna band. Organized Elijah. Do you remember that band?
Yep.
Gabriella's band. Like they were like pretty tech band. And then as far as like the out east, I guess they like Stray Reason Line, The End, Sight for Sewn Eyes, and then of course like Counterparts. Textbook Tragedy never. I don't think we played with Counterparts, like maybe once, but I don't think we did. But I think if anything, it's like those guys that are still like waving the flag.
Yeah, I guess yeah. Not Textbook. Counterparts has been a band long enough that they were playing with, I guess, those bands, and I think maybe they just had enough. Like everyone, it sounds like majority of those bands had like hardcore backgrounds, but like that band has really like just continued to go and crush it and still maintain that like melodic, but like still have like the crazy. That was always the thing, like for me with that band, it was just having all these like ridiculous like parts that were only there for maybe 8 seconds, and then it's on to the next ridiculous part.
And then of course like we have like Misery Signals, right, which like influenced like every metalcore kid from here to the moon. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, yeah, and that's been crazy seeing the trajectory of, you know, how that band, you know, with different vocalists have kind of like changed, and the latest record is a slam dunk as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So okay, so like, do you feel like Textbook is really where it's like that was the first band that was like really like, you know, going out, hitting the ground running and doing the band stuff that you're like you were saying, like this is all I've ever known for the majority of my life, and that was kind of the moments in that band to kind of really cement a lot of, you know, things for the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. Like when we were out doing that, I knew that I wanted to play music, and I would kind of do whatever it took to, you know, working kind of like whatever job at home so I could, you know, it's the same thing as I think most guys feel about, like we just would do anything we could to like make it work, you know?
Yeah. So, so you started doing the Living with Lines stuff, which I think was actually, like I was mentioning this before the call. I think the first time that we probably have crossed paths, but maybe didn't have a, you know, a one-on-one conversation or any conversation for that matter, was when Living with Lions played the DPK 5-year, and I filmed all the bands that year, and like I remember specifically like where I was angled, and your mic was like essentially like right in the center. So I was like, oh man, this like I think I was really enjoying some of your melodies. I was like, yeah, this guy can really sing, and he's got the Dingwall bass, like that's so sick. And then it was only, I guess, you know, so that was like that was beginning of 2019, and now being into 2021, SPIRITBOX is kind of like the main thing that you're involved in, and I know that band had kind of been. It's SPIRITBOX is kind of one of those things, and I find a lot of bands that have a viral moment kind of get put into this weird thing where a lot of new fans will come at a moment, and they'll be like, oh, this is a new band, but not maybe think, oh, this band has actually been going around since 2017. So tell me kind of the origin story as far as SPIRITBOX is concerned, and then we can kind of transition into some of the, I guess, recent things that have really exploded the band over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So obviously Michael and Courtney started writing for SPIRITBOX. I want to say 2017.
Yeah.
He was working on that stuff a lot earlier.
Yeah.
But I remember that that first EP came out in October of, I believe, 2017. And in the summer, Courtney had hit me up because we had met like years before. Like I'd met Michael in Airdrie, Alberta at a concert. When
Really?
Textbook was playing with FIA. And dude, Michael, he's like, he's a tall guy, and he's like ripped and like big guy, but he was like a teenager, like maybe 16 or 17. And he came up to me and he was like, hey, he's like, will you check out my band? And he gave me a CD at the show. And I said, let's go. I'm like, come back to my band, little guy. And like, I will listen to it. And I sat there and I listened to the first FIA record. It has like a house on it or something. And that's where we met. And then I met Courtney after a show in Victoria in like a couple years later. And we we kept in contact a little bit. And so, that summer, the summer before the SPIRITBOX EP came out, Courtney hit me up a text. I'm like, hey, long time no chat. I've been working on some new music. I'd just love to get your feedback on it. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to hear it, obviously. And they sent it I remember she's like, send it to me right away. And I was like, I don't know if I was at work or I was doing something, and I like kind of slipped my mind for a couple days. And then I was like, oh, I should like listen to this thing. And I put it on, and I was just like immediately blown away by, I never really heard anything like it.
Right.
And like the immersion of like where it took me, I was just flabbergasted. And I wrote her out this like 8-paragraph thing about how great I thought it was. And she thought it was so funny because they thought I just blew it up. Like it was just like, man, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so cool. I was obsessed with it when I heard it. And I was like, so who's in the band? Like, what's going on? They're like, oh, we have some people from the States that are going to be playing with us. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, well, like, if you ever need someone to jam with, like, let me know. And I believe it was in later January or February following the release, I was actually coming home from a funeral from a friend of mine who had passed away from an overdose. And he was a really cool guy, and he wanted to be like a actor. Like he was like, I did a little bit of stand-up comedy. I don't know, he was like in his late 20s, but his dream was always to like go down to California and make it. And he would like talk to me a lot about it, and I'd always try to encourage him. And I was like, yeah, like I really want to start playing music again. And we always kind of talked about, just like, well, we want to do this and we want to do this. And unfortunately he didn't make it. But the day I was coming home from his service, Courtney texted me and was like, hey, do you want to come jam with us? And I was just like, and I just like was like, yeah. Like, I knew like that from that moment, I just knew that like this was what I was going to be doing probably for the foreseeable future in my life. Like, and we hadn't even seen each other or practiced yet, but I knew just from that weird kind of thing that happened that day that it was like what I had to be doing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like kind of like a textbook sign as far as like
it was a sign, man. And it was, and I just knew right away. I'm like, and I hadn't been playing that style of music for years.
Right.
After I didn't know anything about like the crazy new gear and all that stuff, but I just knew like, I was like, I'm just going to work my butt off and do whatever it takes to snap myself back into shape.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like you mentioned at the beginning, there was kind of a break between playing music on a regular basis, but yeah, it's really cool that, your friend who passed away, like just kind of building each other up in this way of like, like that should be something that you should, should reach for. And I think it's one of those things where it's like being prepared is, what's the saying is something to the lines of, like there's coincidences, but there's also like realizing opportunities and grabbing those when you are like mentally, like you see it and you take advantage of it.
Yeah. So, and that was more of a coincidence. It was more just like a force that was like smacking me in the back of the head, saying like, are you ready? Like,
yeah.
You have to do this. And I knew right away that I had to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's no questions of like, okay, like what's the practice schedule? Like some of those was like, no, this is a gut feeling and I need to just like, take on that. So yeah, that's yeah. And going back to how Courtney had like first sent you the music and then just the timing of things like you didn't listen to, that's a lesson.
Long, a couple days, and like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that dramatic, but I think that they thought that I was just gonna blow it off, which I think
yeah. But that's a lesson to all the listeners. If you're sending stuff off, like life gets busy, people are doing things, and it's not half the time, it's more than half the time it's not personal. Like sometimes it's like, I will get to it. Like that's happened so many times with me where people have like shot me DMs and like I've totally missed them, and then it's like this really cool record that I like genuinely like, and he's like, oh, I thought you forgot about it, and I was like, no, like literally just didn't see it. So
yeah,
it's just not in front of me half the time. So okay, so there was like some past I guess like initial meetings, and then you were genuinely a fan of the music, and then there was kind of this like sign that it was like, okay, this is something that I should be involved with. So kind of like, what was kind of the jumping off point where it's like, okay, now I'm involved in like the music side of things as far as writing and like promotional kind of things. Like what's the process of like a Spirit Box song from start to finish? Maybe that's
Michael writes all the music, and Courtney writes the lyrics. And it's like, that's pretty much it. Like,
okay.
like it's like, but it's like I play bass in the band. Like I'm the bass player.
Mm.
Like when we do like a lot, like in the past when we did a lot of our own music video stuff, that's where I found like I could really kind of shine and help out. You know what I mean? It's like I have a supporting role in this band, but I have I'm happy to be here and happy to be doing it. Right. And it's weird because we just started playing shows and then COVID hit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but as soon as we all started hanging out with each other, like, I go when there's writing and recording and stuff. Like I'm in the band, like I'm going to be there. Right. Like I've dedicated my life to it. But, as soon as we started hanging out regularly, we just clicked, you know what I mean? Like, so usually I'm going to be there for whatever it is. But like, even on like, when we do videos and stuff, like I feel like that's where I can maybe shine a little bit more of like trying to help or like build something for that or something. Like on Holy Roller, like I built that big wreath thing at my shop.
Okay.
At my shop in Vancouver, and then like we brought it out to the middle of the field in Sook, and you know what I mean? So it's cool. Like those are like the kind of like my contributions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, like having fun, trying to keep everybody in a good mood. Lots of jokes.
Yeah, setting the vibe. That's just as important.
Bev manager for sure.
Yes, yeah. Every band needs a bev manager. That's an absolute must, because otherwise you're gonna be like, oh, like we got this like the gas station water bottles, and you're like, no. Like let's get a box of Liquid Death. Let's get a box of this. Let's get some of that. So absolutely, every band needs a bev manager for sure. But what I think, how you were saying, like once the band actually started to play some live shows, because there are some stuff that I watched kind of leading up to this where it's like kind of seeing how you guys perform live and all those things. And I think it was, kind of like the upswing was there, but then obviously the pandemic hitting was like, okay, this isn't ideal for everyone. And every band has been trying to adjust and adapt to the changing environment. So, I want to specifically talk about the Holy Roller, I guess, video and song, because I think that was definitely a moment to like really bring more awareness to the band. But maybe as a general question, like what's been like the biggest like thing that as a band that has all this like hype and attention behind it, where it's like, would this be even further if the pandemic wasn't in the mix? Or like, is there a lot of attention and awareness because people are stuck at home and they're just seeking for some of those things?
Well, that's the craziest thing with this whole thing, right? Like for us, I love the band. I love the music. And that's why I joined the band, because I was just so in love with like the sound it was creating, and I'm, as people who are, well, as of next week, everyone will be in their 30s. Michael's turning 30 next week. Courtney's 32. I'm 34. We weren't really planning on being a full-time, like back in the van,
right,
go tour crazy. So, after we put out the EP and we put out the singles collection, it was designed to we do like a single and a video. And then touring, I'm sure, as is like hard and
Yes.
not cheap.
Yeah.
But especially when you add in things like car payments and mortgages and, there's other people in the mix, it's like, it's a little bit more tough to go out and do those
Right.
shows, So we weren't really sure how everything was going to pan out. And, so after the singles, we were like, okay, we're going to go do this tour. We had that after the Burial tour, and we're going to go record our record when we come home from that tour. And once the border closed, we couldn't record the record. So Holy Roller was going to be kind of like a transitional, like fun song on the record. And we had pretty much everything written, but we're like, well, so like, we got to put out another song because we can't put the record out. But as you were saying, like a lot of people are trying to figure out like how to navigate COVID in the situation. For us, it was kind of business as usual because we were used to dropping singles and videos.
Sure. Okay.
You know what I mean? So like, as much as it sucked because we obviously wanted to play shows and drop a record, we kind of already had like a system figured out for that, right?
Yeah.
So Holy Roller was a really interesting experiment to watch record too, because I think it was like, this was really early in the pandemic too. So like I didn't go to the island, and like we were like, everyone was like, stay at home. And I shipped my Dingwall out to Michael. He has a studio in Victoria. And so Dan, our producer, like logged in remotely to his Pro Tools and was like controlling it.
Wow.
As Michael was, and then and then for like a microphone and a preamp, like they tried to get like the exact same one that he'd have as his studio. Sure. And so the whole song was like mixed and tracked. Like the computer was here, but Dan was controlling it.
That is crazy.
Over Zoom.
Yes.
And then that's actually how we did Constance too, but it was a little bit later on.
Sure.
So like I went to the island for a couple days. And I remember I was there for that, but it was just like so weird. Like it was almost like on Futurama, with like the floating heads.
Yes, of course.
So like Dan Bronstein, who's the guy that does all our stuff, Dan's head's just floating in the Zoom there.
Right.
And I was like, I miss you, and we're like kind of hanging out, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, so we had Holy Roller pretty much ready to go. We're like, hey, why don't we use this song? And then so we recorded it from the demo. Courtney did it. Then that was sometime in the summer in BC, I'm not sure how it was in a lot of other places, but when the restrictions had let up a bit and we could have what we call our safe six, our group of six.
Right. Okay.
We got together and like, we kind of had like workshops, some ideas about what we wanted to do, but I built that wreath, and then Michael borrowed a camera from someone and he put that video together and edited it. And
wow.
So
like, yeah, like there's, as far as, the band is concerned, like that whole process sounds as DIY as it gets. Like to have like your producer, like through like, hacking into the Matrix network to be able to like fine tune things versus him being there or things like that. But then also like on the aspects of, trying to manage things in this, COVID world. Because I think, being in this ship for like more than a year now, people have made their own, I guess, understandings with like what they are personally comfortable with. But at the time there was a lot of unknown and scarcity. So it's like, no, I am going to stay home and not do shit or see other people, or I'm only going to see these people. So, to hear like you guys like building and shooting and editing everything on your own, just to have something where it's like, okay, like we need to drop some music and we're going to make it happen. That's DIY as fuck, in my opinion.
Hell yeah, man. And like I said, like, probably fully budget for the Holy Roller video was maybe $800 or something like that. And that like includes gas and like me getting white spot on the ferry and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so yeah, because I had heard through some of those memes how difficult that video was. I guess like before the actual explosion of how viral that song became, like when you guys like heard the written material and started to record it, was there something in the back of my mind that you were like, I think this is going to be big from the band? Because I've heard that from some people where like Jeremy from Comeback Kid, when they were recording that, he was like, yeah, this is going to be a song. This is going to be like a huge, and now that's the song that band is wildly known for. Did you think Holy Roller was going to be the song that, when people were like, oh yeah, I've heard of SpiritBOX, that Holy Roller song?
I don't know. Like, all I knew when I heard it, I was like, this is so dope. And this is different than anything I've ever heard. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I hope people like this because I think it's like sick as hell.
Right. So,
you guys definitely wasn't like, like,
it was just like, yeah, this is another one of our good songs that
like, this kicks ass. I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
so you guys, put out the video and it clearly has like gone into the ethos as far as like awareness and things like that. Is there anyone specifically that has either shared the video, heard the song, or shouted it out that you're like, I had no idea that you would care about my small little band from Vancouver?
Oh, for sure. And it's like, it's shocking. Like some of the, and some of these like big reaction channels that you see on YouTube, which is another like crazy thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
that's its own beast for sure.
Yeah. But I think the craziest one I think I saw, it wasn't like, it was like one of Courtney's like live playthroughs that she does when she sings a song. Was Tommy Lee like posted, like video recorded it and had it on his Instagram story.
That's so crazy.
Like Motley Crue, Tommy Lee, which is like, but I was like, whoa, that one's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, not even someone in like the necessarily like the, I guess like, yeah, Motley Crue is like a metal band, but like they're almost like in that like rock world. But like
they're rockers, man. Yeah. They're rockers.
That is super, super nutty. So
that was the first one I think I saw.
Yeah. So obviously like that has, I think it's very safe to say that song had changed a lot of things for the band. So now, you guys are signed to Rise Records and have like 2 singles out under that label. Circle With Me like hit 1 million video plays in like a week, which like rightly so, that video is badass and the song is badass. So like overall, like I've been talking about you guys on the podcast and really saying like this is a huge thing for like Western Canada music because we don't have like that next really big band from here. I feel like you guys are in that area and people are like, they're from like, what's this little island and where is that? So like, is there like, how has that been where you're kind of being getting to be a representative for like the overall like half of our country as far as heavy music is concerned?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for saying that because that means a lot. It is, to be honest, like the whole thing, even from like when we put out that song "Blessed Be," we put that one out the day we were leaving for our Europe tour, and I kind of knew I kind of had a feeling that things were going to start picking up when we put that song out, and then it was like well received, and then the Holy Roller thing was obviously super crazy too.
Right.
But it's a good feeling, man, because I feel like everyone in our band also has been doing this for so long that it feels right.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm eating.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's just like even as you just explained it to me, I was like, wow, that is a nice, and it is a crazy feeling. It's really hard to say because everyone's like, whoa, your band is doing so good, it's so crazy. I'm like, thank you, but it's still such a weird thing because since all this stuff started happening, we haven't played any concerts.
Right.
So I don't know what to expect for when we start gigging.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's always been the thing that I've noticed, that there's a lot of, I think that there's a lot more people who are willing to check out new music right now, because that is, and I've talked about this before, that is like a discipline that you almost need to put into practice sometimes, because I know a lot of people who are just not good at like checking out all the new releases. I like if this is a humble brag or anything, it's like, because what I do with Scoped is like I'm always just looking for new stuff to either feature or talk about. So I think a lot of bands have had these like huge explosions and things like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how people are going to execute that in a live setting once shows. When shows.
Yeah, and going back, sorry, I kind of got away from this, but going back to the thing is that, like I said, is that like Holy Roller wasn't supposed to be a single.
Right.
But we were like, you gotta like, we're like, this is cool. Let's put this out. We got to put something out. And then, so with the combination of that song, people like loving it, and then also being more around their devices and looking for new music and new video and stuff like that. Like that definitely shaped a lot of our path moving forward from that point.
Yeah. And I think it maybe it's, and I've talked about this before, where like sometimes we think one thing and then the market will take it in an entirely different direction. There's been multiple projects that I've been in where I'm like, this is the song that, you know, the room opens up and people go crazy for, but then it actually becomes the other song. Or like, this is the podcast that like is really gonna, you know, take the channel to the next level, and then it's something entirely different. So I've always, you know, trying to humble myself to like what the market or the viewers or the people on the other end of this are telling me, because I feel like that information is far more valuable than like you trying to like decipher, okay, why didn't this thing that I put so much like heart and energy into not take off the way that I wanted it to, when something literally on the other side is like going miles beyond what you would have hoped for.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing too, is why you just got to put it out and hope for the best, because, you know, if you really think like this is the one, this is going to change my life, this, and it doesn't work out, it's like, you know what I mean? It could rip you apart, but you just, if you think about that stuff, you're not going to stay focused and try to keep going.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of like, you know, you actually learn more from like your losses. Like you retain more information from that. Like, how can I take things that gave me the L to get into a W? And like, you know, like with, you know, yourself and Mike and Courtney being in so many different bands from your past, now it's like, okay, now things have actually clicked, and you know, we're into our 30s now, but like now, like this is something that I can like take part in. Has that been kind of a strange thing for you? Because I feel that on like a much smaller scale, like the band that I'm a part of right now, like I'm 28, and like I feel like this is the most attention that I've gotten from any music venture. So like you were saying, like it's, you know, there's way more things as you get older in the mix of that. So is there like this pressure at the back of your head of like, I don't know if I can go as hard when I was in like my early 20s, when I was doing stuff with Textbook or, you know, other bands, but like now it feels like there's even more attention from when I had the access to do those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and like for me personally, I can only speak for myself. And I'm speaking on the scale of anyone else I've ever played in a band with too, is that like I've learned from my personal mistakes, whether it been anywhere in life or like playing shows, touring, and that has made me into like a much better musician, and also as a better like coworker for people in the group, you know. Absolutely. And I don't think that if I was handed this or given this opportunity 5 or 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Right.
I'm a little bit calmer, a little bit, and a little bit more responsible. You know, like I like even, you know, to do this stuff, like I take exercising seriously, which I never have in my life. And like, I don't like personally enjoy exercising, but it's something I have to do to get ready to start playing these shows. And like regular practicing, you know, try to practice like my goal is to practice 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Which can be tough when you're like working a lot and stuff, but just being conscious of the things that didn't work for me in the past have made it so I have succeeded in what I've been doing so far.
Yeah.
And that's been like super pivotal and like important for me to acknowledge that stuff and think about that, you know?
Yeah, I think like I think when I was growing up and getting like just seeing a lot of the bands involved, it was such like a young person's game. Like, oh, all these band people are the same age as me, and I'm just like going to high school, but everyone else is doing that. And I think everyone has their own path and things like that. But like I do think it is cool to kind of showcase like every project that you're involved with, you take the lessons from those bands and apply to the next thing. And I think like taking all that, the next thing always has like a way stronger start, because like, you know, there's no time to mess around and like, you know, and play some games, because it's like we know what we want to do, and you can just get off to the races at that point.
Yeah, and I'm super thankful for every experience I've had in all my music. Like I really like, there were some, you know, some rough times, but also some really good times, but I wouldn't change any of that because it brought me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like super, super important. Like all these lessons, the good ones and the bad ones I've had to learn.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you guys signed to Rise. You put out 2 singles. The singles have like a very similar like album artwork theme. So if I'm just like trying to think about what this could be, I think those would be 2 songs that would be, I guess, what would be on the debut LP of what you guys do. I think in the process of like booking this podcast, you guys got stuck down in the States.
We weren't stuck, but the issue was, so we were like I said, the only way we could get together to record, because our producer Dan couldn't come up to Canada because people from America still can't come up to Canada right now, was we would go down there, and we thought that the safest and best way to do it would just to go to somewhere very remote instead of going to LA. So we rented a rancher house outside of Joshua Tree. So flew into Palm Springs, then I drove about an hour and a half into Joshua Tree, which is where we would like go for groceries and stuff. And then it was about another 30 or 40 minute drive out to the area we were staying. And you know, on Airbnb, you're like, oh, is the Wi-Fi good? And it's like, you know, it's like your auntie or something, like, oh, the Wi-Fi is great. Like, you know, unless it's windy, then it kind of goes out. And we're like, that's kind of a weird thing. And it was weird too, because as we were driving by, there was like signs up like warning like live wire area, because they were putting in fiber optic out to this area.
Oh, okay.
Like 300 up and down. And I think when we got there and we realized like the internet situation, it was like 2 megabytes up.
Oh no.
Yeah, and especially for, you know, like programs like Pro Tools, and when you have plugins, these things have constant updates, and like we do a lot of updates on our Patreon and you know, stuff like that too. And so same with like Zoom and streaming. And even if I wanted to like I wanted to like download something on my Switch, I had to like drive an hour to go to Starbucks. So we basically had like no internet out there.
That's crazy. Yeah.
We went and got like another like I think it was T-Mobile has better coverage than whatever they had, because they just had like one of those little boxes too. So we got a T-Mobile,
okay,
and it was a bit better, but that was more for for important stuff.
Sure.
So
we have to get someone on the Zoom, boot up the T-Mobile box.
Yeah, so it's like we had to like download a update on the computer or whatever, you know what I mean? So like I couldn't really like, so, and it was because the reason it was like that, because it's like pay as you go.
Right. Okay.
And so it was I think we paid like, it was expensive. It was like a couple $100 for like 40 gigs or something like that.
Sure.
And if you like plugged your own laptop into there, you had to make sure you didn't have like automatic updates. Like you didn't want to accidentally download a 16 gig World of Warcraft update.
Right. Yeah. No, like it is one of those things where it's like, have like speed is kind of like if you have a determinant to that factor in your writing process, in your recording process, that shifts everything, you know, and derails the entire entity.
Yeah.
So
And we had the place for a month. And I think that we had one day off in the middle for Valentine's because Dan went home. And actually that wasn't even really a day off because Michael wrote a new song that day. and then we had one day at the end of the 30 days.
Okay.
And like, so like we finished tracking with like one day to spare.
Wow. Okay. And if you guys had like the fastest Wi-Fi in all the land, do you think you would have been finished way quicker? Probably.
No, I think like that was about the best time. Like that Wi-Fi thing like was just kind of annoying, and we got it sorted. But like
Sure.
we had 30 days to track this whole freaking thing.
Got you. Okay. So you guys, okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it was more on like some of the downloading and uploading versus like,
so
okay, well, this is updating for 30 minutes. Let's, you know, work on this part, you know, while that's happening.
Yeah. So when I was talking to you and you're like, oh, do you want to like do it this weekend? I'm like, I don't even think it would work.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? I think, yeah, exactly. And then you finished the season. And then after we were recording, we went to LA to do like that video and do some other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came home at the end of March and had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Mm.
And then it was just like kind of back to here we are now.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, it is one of those things. Like, I think that's an experience that I would like to have on a recording front, like being able to go somewhere like versus just like your normal like local sphere, but also like being in like a remote location to like really like we're here for the music that we're working on versus like, oh, like you're, you know, in someone's space and then there's like stuff around that you can go like peter off and do that. Like that seems like a really fun time just to be like, we're out in the middle of nowhere and like we're here to write riffs and breakdowns and all that sick shit. So
it was really awesome. Like I had a great time. I think everyone had a great time out there because we had like a little gym set up and there was like, it was beautiful to walk around.
Yeah.
I definitely think though that everyone would like to record next time we do a record, would love to do a record in a studio. But it was awesome. But I don't even remember the last time I recorded a record, like a full length record in a actual studio. It's always been like, you know, at someone's house or like someone tracks and then sends it to someone else to mix and master and stuff like that. But,
well, like especially right now, it's different in multiple places in the world, but like my band has had to do that where it comes to like, okay, we're DI tracking here and then we're sending it to so and so. You know, like a lot of studios just like, well, I can only have one person in the studio at a time versus like 5 to 10 people. So I hope that people can go back to that like regular studio environment in the near future. But I think a lot of people like you were saying have truly adapted to just how they're actually putting out these new songs of theirs.
Yeah, and it's so much easier to get a decent sound than it was in the early 2000s. You know what I mean? Like with like these like virtual amp plugins and you know a decent interface, like it or you know like
so
drums, superior drummer and stuff. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just spent way more money recording in a studio for a better sounding thing when we were young.
Yeah. What's been like one of the biggest ahas like when you're doing music stuff with SPIRITBOX compared to like when you were in textbook, like, oh, like we did not have access to this when we were writing music or doing stuff in the studio. Well,
like I said, even just for me, like understanding like with low tuning, because like textbook played in like low tunings and stuff too, but like understanding like the proper instrument and strings and like how like a wave works and stuff like that. Sure. Like I use this like this bass plugin called Parallax. It's a neural DSP plugin. It's the best bass sound I've ever had. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm like, where's this been my whole life? This is so but back in the day, it was like, I remember the last textbook thing we did, it was like plugged into the pod the Pod Pro, and it was off to the races, right? So
jeez. The Pod, saving all the metal bands.
yeah, the Insane channel, man, it's a coveted thing.
Yeah. Maybe that's a nice transition because I know that you're a big Dingwall user. I don't know if you're sponsored by them or you're just like you're a big Dingwall fan. Oh, you are. That's so cool. So like Dingwall is interesting because I used to work at a music store in Winnipeg, and I remember the day that we like started carrying them, and like the guy who did all our guitar setups was a bass player, and he was just like it was like Christmas for him. He was just like, I'm so excited that we're getting Dingwall here. So what is that's a pretty like sought after bass, I think, for a lot of like metal heads. So like how was the change from like what bass were you I don't even know if you're allowed to in your contracts or whatever, like what you played before compared to like how much of a change that's been playing something of that magnitude?
Yeah, so like I was like primarily played Fender basses my whole life. I still love them; they're awesome. And then in textbook, I had like a Spectre, and I had a Ernie Ball music band. But there was like 7-8 years I wasn't playing any heavy music, so I had to really like research and like see what was going to be best. And so for low tuning, because we're in drop F sharp. And I think we have and then we have a new song. I think it's like in double drop D, like an octave below drop D.
Damn.
That we had to base for too. So with the Dingwall and with multi-scale instruments, the way that they work is that like the low strings are longer than the high strings.
Yes.
So if you were to open up a piano and you were to hit a really low note and you open it up, and you would see that string is longer because you need more tension.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a perfect way of that's a perfect visual, because like a piano normally, if you're looking at a grand piano, it's not just a rectangle.
It
like kind of comes in a little bit when it gets to those higher strings. So yeah, that's a great way of explaining that.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times too on 5-string instruments, the low string sounds completely different than the other 4. And that's the reason, is because that string should be longer. Multi-scale it has been around for a while, but I think Dingwall is the first company to do like they have an amazing custom shop in Saskatoon where they make all the custom stuff, but they do have commercial models available. So they were the ones that could bring 5 to the Long McQuaid or the Guitar Center in your town and make it more accessible. And some custom stuff is like thousands and thousands of dollars. So the fact that you can get something that does that like for a reasonably affordable price, like makes it so much easier for everybody to get into.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that Dingwall is a Canadian company.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, like that makes sense that like shout out to Jake's eagerness. But yeah, like those basses seem to be like one of those like, oh, like if I'm playing in a band that has like an insane tuning like that, like that's what I should go for, versus trying to get like a Fender P bass and try to set it up and just struggle to no end.
I get a lot of people like hitting me up and texting me. They're like, hey, I tuned to F sharp, but I can't get it to sound like yours. Like, what string gauge you use? I'm like, well, I do use like a bit of a heavier string gauge, but the clarity of that note comes from the scale.
Right.
The scale length more than anything. So
yeah.
I know a couple other companies are using it now, are messing around with multi-scale, but like those guys definitely like they know what's up, and like that's their primary thing. That's what they do, and they're the best at it.
So, Spiritbox is one of those bands that, like you were saying, Mike is writing the music, and I'm sure that he's playing, he's writing certain things with like, I'm a single guitar player, but like, maybe this part like happens just once on this side, on the left or on the right. So, I find that bands that have like a single guitarist and a single bass player kind of utilize the bass player as like a second guitar player, if that makes sense, like for certain parts.
Like I would definitely say that a big part of the guitar sound of the band is how much our bass tone blends in with it.
Yes. Yeah.
So like I have like, like I said, I had that parallax plugin and the ding wall, and it's like that mixed with Michael's sound is like a huge part of our sound. But then, there's like a lot of the in SPIRITBOX, there's a lot of that like clean guitar, tappy and slap stuff that Mike's doing. And a lot of people are like, oh, that bass is crazy. I'm like, no, dude, that's guitar, Sometimes I'm kind of doing some of the same stuff, but a lot of times it's more laid back and he's just ripping.
Yeah, no, like I think with Circle With Me, like that definitely is a song that you are, kind of in the forefront a lot more, because there's like no guitar, or like it's so like in the back of the mix, and you're like just riding along there.
It's cool. It's I don't think we have another song that's like that, where you just get a lot of bass in the verse. So it's cool. Like I said, really lucky that I found that, in my opinion, like the perfect sound.
Yeah. I have to really commend like whoever does all the mixing for your guys' stuff is like very intentional about not like everything is so crazy. Like I remember on Constance, like hearing when the chorus kind of kicks in, it's almost like the vocals aren't like so loud to kind of match the crazy instrumentation. It's kind of pulled back, but it fits super nicely there. So who's ever doing that has an eye and ear for it for sure.
Dan Bronstein is the man.
Yeah. So the latest thing, as far as the time of recording this, that you guys have put out, Circle With Me, that was the video that you went down to LA for. Was that the trip that you were DMing me that you didn't have enough changes of clothes and those things?
Yeah. Because so to continue on, with that story. So we had planned to go down for a month to record. And we were just going to record our record and probably come home. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, I'm going to be just like hanging out in some house. So I'm like, a couple pairs, restaurants aren't open.
Right.
There's nothing to do. So I'm like, a couple pairs of sweats. I think I brought like 5 t-shirts, and, I didn't want to bring like a ton of stuff with me anyway. I had like one suitcase. And then when we realized, like, with the quarantine, the Canada quarantine thing, it's like, well, what do we do? Go home, quarantine for 2 weeks, and then come back? Like, so I had really only packed for a month, and we ended up staying for 2 months. And then since we were all together, we did some photos and stuff like that. And I was just like, I did go to the mall and get some stuff, obviously, but I was like, oh my God, and I had to tell my wife, I'm like, hey, like, I'm actually staying for 2 months, not 1 month.
Right. Yeah. Because the quarantine time is just kind of like out the window. If you're like, well, we actually do have to come back here, and then
100%. And like Michael and Courtney live in Victoria, and I live in Vancouver. We did the video with our drummer Zev, who he came and did that tour with us. Like, so he flew out and did the video. And it was like, well, when are we all going to be together again? So we just we're like, well, we'll just stay a little bit longer and we'll get more content since we're all together.
Yeah, no, it was funny when you were messaging me about that, because it's just like, oh, like now you can remember like the certain things that you bought for that trip. You're like, yeah, I bought this out of necessity because I was stuck in the States for a little bit longer than I wanted to be.
Yeah, but it was awesome, man. I had such a good time. Like, Michael and Courtney and I also don't obviously see each other a lot. Mm-hmm. And like, other than that tour that we did in Europe last year, which I think that maybe, I don't even know if it was we got 2 weeks in. It might've been like 2.5 weeks. Like, that was the most time we've ever spent together.
Got you. Yeah.
And so it was like a good tour sim to be able to like live together in close quarters, to like do all this stuff while we were together. And yeah, it was great. Like, nobody got mad at each other the whole time.
Yeah, no. And I think like, seeing that opportunity and again, like adapting to that and figuring out what's the best case to, like allocate that time, because it's the same thing with like, I'm just starting to get messages from like different bands of like, hey, like we might be doing a release show like for this thing in September. Like, would you want to come down and film it? And I'm like, there's enough time from, you know, when we're recording this episode to that time where like there might not be any like quarantining. It could get way worse. So like there's all these things that we're all just trying to do our best to navigate.
Everything is just right.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys put out that Circle With Me. Is my hypothesis that song and Constance are going to be on something bigger down the line, or are those just singles to prepare, you know, all the SpiritBox fans for an entirely fresh set of full-length songs?
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
When is this coming out? When are we going to post this?
It could come out whenever. So yeah, now it's the game of like, when are certain SpiritBox news and then the drops of that. So if you want to pick a date right now, we can for sure do that.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we? I know that we'll have some more news for people at the end of this month, and I think the end of this month is like in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So when that happens, then we can put that out, and then anyone that's interested in that will have their answer.
Okay, got you. So maybe what I'll do is I'll put this just before the May kind of turns over as like a
like May 1, like June 1, June 2, something like that.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it does sound like there are some things coming down the pipe, which I'm very excited for. Like I remember I did a playlist for bands that I am eagerly awaiting that like first LP from, and you guys were kind of like, it's almost like I wanted to build that idea off of just like SpiritBox, and like there's a plethora of bands that are like just, you know, really planning out that first debut, because like the first record can always like be a huge thing to, you know, if you thought Holy Roller was like a viral thing to take a band, like just imagine what the album drop day of SpiritBox is going to be. So
yeah, we're so stoked, man. Like we can't wait for everyone to hear it, because it was also, you know, with this whole coronavirus thing, you know, it's been like 2.5 years we've been working on this record.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's been like stuff that we like ended up writing more songs for this, you know, and it's just like we go back to saying like, wow, everything would be totally different, and like some of these songs wouldn't even have existed if the record would have come out
right
last year or whatever, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's just we're lucky that everything has gone the way it's gone so far. I mean, considering the state of the world, right?
Right. You know, as we start to wrap up, Bill, maybe, you know, like you were saying, like SpiritBox has done a little bit of touring, but maybe not to the degree of what you guys are clearly capable of, but also just like what, you know, every member of the band wants. What would be your dream like 4-pack tour for SpiritBox to be on? Maybe you guys are on the opener slot, but you guys can choose the rest of the bands.
Oh, of course. Oh man, there's so much. Like we obviously once the world kind of gets back to normal, we want to go as crazy as possible. But like I said, I can only speak for me personally, but I think, you know, most people always want to say the Deftones headlining, and then I'll just even be there like sweeping up in the parking lot if they want me to be there. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, I think about like bands that we really like too. Loathe, Sleep Token. Do you know Darko? Do you know that band?
Darko, like Darko.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
like it's some of the guys from it's one guy from Amur, and then it's the singer of Chelsea Grin.
Oh, okay.
And the new record. It's really out there. It's amazing.
Okay.
So we're all really pumped on that. Gojira, you know, I don't know. I'm just like, I would just have a festival instead of 4 bands.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that there are a lot, like, of all those bands that you listed. Like, I think that those acts really are, yeah, like you guys are in line to play with a lot of those, like, you know, having those like super metal like show experiences where it's like a sea of people. So yeah, I'm very excited for you guys. I really think what that band is getting attention wise is big for, you know, just Canadian music in general. And yeah, I'm like it. I know I feel in my gut, despite feeling a little under the weather, that it's going to be absolutely insane for you guys. So
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me. It's awesome to finally get to have a chat.
yes. Before we go, the last section of the podcast that I always ask my guests is a favorite Mosh story that they would like to share. So it seems like you got one in the tank. So fire away for whatever you got.
My favorite Mosh story is, oh man, it was on the Comeback Kid Symptoms and Cures tour. And so it was like us, it was like Living with Lions, Madball, Comeback Kid, Devil and Me, and Wilhelm Scream. I think that was the tour.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that was the same one. It was something crazy. But for some reason, Dan Marenga from the Hollywood Springs Disaster was there, but I feel like we were in Montreal. But anyway, Comeback Kid was playing, and for some reason, they put me in a laundry basket and like carried me out on stage and like kind of gently tossed the laundry basket into the thing. And I was just like sitting in this laundry basket, and I went all
you
around
were crowd surfing in a laundry basket.
But then I flipped out, like
Right.
I fell out of the and like, you know, spun away, which was fine. But then like someone like picked it up, the laundry basket, and then smashed it over someone's head. Like all in fun, you know, it wasn't like bad, but it was just like the whole thing maybe lasted like 4 minutes, but it was just really funny from start to finish.
Wow, that's too funny. I hope there's some video evidence of that somewhere out there in the ethos.
I've seen a picture of it.
Oh, okay.
I might be able to find the picture, but I don't know if there's any video.
Okay. Well, if you find the picture, maybe I'll just like impose it over the screen or something. Well, Bill, this has been a really great chat. Really appreciate you making some time for me. And again, like I don't just say it because you're on the podcast. I am very excited to see what SpiritBox is doing in the next couple months, and you know, when shows are fully back in the mix. If there's anything you want to send the people off with, plug anything, do any shout outs, the floor is yours for whatever you got.
Yeah, I don't know. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the SpiritBox record when it comes out, if that's your thing.
Yeah, sounds great.
I really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm gonna have to get some Topo Chico and give you a comprehensive review once I can, you know, let that hit my lips.
I wonder if I put one of these in like a poster tube with some peanuts, like some foam peanuts, if I could.
Interesting. So, okay, like not to extend the length of this episode, but that is something that I am trying to think about, how to send bevs in an efficient way in the mail.
It's scary though, because carbonated is, you know, that's risky.
Right. Yeah, you don't want something exploding in the Canada Post machine.
But I do know that there is a beverage company here that like is like the distributor for Topo, so maybe you can like order a case from them. I don't know. We'll make it work though.
Yeah, this is all stuff that we can talk off air, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Bill.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much.